Welcome to The Watcher. I'm your cult leader Tom Pot, and I just watched episode 5 of Hawkeye. And before I tell you what I thought of it, please give this video a like, because of course I've been doing this for every episode of Hawkeye and every episode of a live action Disney Plus MCU show in general. That's a lot of caveats, which is a long way of saying I didn't review What If. But anyway, you want to talk about dedication to something. I have COVID at the moment and I'm still doing it, so please give it a like because I'm really trying my best here. And if you want to show even more dedication, of course, subscribe because I keep doing these as long as people want to see them. But yeah, we have episode 5 here of Hawkeye, which is called Ronin, named for, you know, the ninja character, not like Ronan Keating or anything, or Saoirse Ronan, was as pleasant as that was me. It's, yeah, an interesting episode. And I've talked a lot about how I've really enjoyed the show. I said the third episode was maybe my favorite episode of a Marvel show in general. Now, I will say, like, I think the highs have been higher in some other shows, maybe. But I think that this show has been a lot more consistently high. I think, like, as far as the shows go so far, maybe, like, for me, it's like WandaVision and Hawkeye are close. But I think the problem with WandaVision was it didn't really stick the landing, in my opinion. I'm not sure yet if Hawkeye is going to stick the landing. Because as I mentioned last week, the episode we had last week was a lot of setup for what I thought was going to be a big last 2 episodes. This episode wasn't the big episode I thought it was going to be, which puts a lot of pressure on the finale next week. And I did like this episode, but I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. But there is still some interesting stuff in here, some big reveals that we'll get into straight away. So we're starting not in the present year, which, by the way, the present year in the MCU is 2023. So we're not starting in our future or in our present, but in the past, in 2018, with Yelena Belova, which I have to say, I didn't know we were going to get much Florence Pugh as Yelena in the show, but it seems like, you know, half the show is going to have her in it, which is great. I kind of thought it was going to be a case of, like, you know, when the Dora Milaje showed up in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but she's been in 3 episodes, or going to be in 3 episodes, I guess, so that's pretty great. So, we start with a flashback. She is with another Black Widow, and she's broken into the house of another Black Widow. A very Black Widow heavy start again. And she's going around with the kind of gas, I can't remember what it's called, to release the mind control that they had in the Black Widow film that we had, of course, this summer. I also made me immediately go, like, don't get me wrong, I love Florence Pugh, I love Yelena, but I did kind of go, and I love her accent. And I say that for a specific reason, because I'm like, how long are they going to keep the accent? Are they going to keep it up? Like, she's doing a good job with it, and it's a lot of fun, and it's quite charming, I think, because it's very clearly a put on kind of pantomime accent. But are they going to go the way of Wanda here, where, like, remember when Wanda first showed up, she was like, there's another way, we had the twins, and then, like, by the time it was like Civil War, I was like, well, hey everybody. No, she didn't sound like that, but you know what I mean, they got rid of the accent. I wonder if they're going to do that with Yelena eventually as well. But one thing they did get rid of, not the accent, but Yelena herself, because 2018, of course, was the year that the blip happened, where people got snapped out of existence, and she kind of goes to the bathroom to wash her face, and she is dusted. And 5 years later, she comes back. This is, I think, the first time we've seen it from a person's perspective that's been dusted. It was really interesting, and I love the way it was done visually. Literally, it was almost instantaneous. She was snapped, she was unsnapped, and we saw the kind of room change around her, which I assume would be from her perspective, like, because, like, people could change their room during the blip, right? But it was what it was. It was interesting visually, and I liked it. I liked that it was very instantaneous. I guess, you know, the other widow just thought that Yelena, you know, they never knew if she was dusted, I guess. They were just like, oh, I guess she snuck out the window after she went to the bathroom. And also, I guess the rest of that family were very lucky that the rest of them weren't dusted, because it seemed like they were just having a regular day until, you know, a Black Widow burst out of the bathroom 5 years after she went to it. But yeah, it was interesting. So we kind of get a bittersweet moment where she's like, I have to tell Natasha I'm okay. And it's like, well, Natasha's dead. We don't get that emotional moment, which makes sense, I guess, because, like, I don't think the whole world knows Natasha's dead at this point. Certainly not after they were just brought back. But, you know, it would have been nice to have that emotional moment, but I understand why we didn't get it. But that's where we start. So a bit of backstory on Yelena, I guess, and also a kind of arguably a lazy way to be like, you know, oh, well, we filled up her story, you know, pretty much up to Black Widow. What did she do in the years between that? She was gone. Okay, right. Fair enough. So there's a lot of talking in this episode, a lot of going to people's houses and having big scenes. And we start that with Kate talking to her mother, Eleanor, which I actually have to say, they actually covered something I was going to address, which is like, it kind of looks like Kate's just been going around in the Kate Bishop costume already. Which, you know, is something you get a lot in the like CW shows, and a lot of people have criticized those shows for that, and even some people have compared this show to a CW show negatively, even though I think the CW shows have done a good job comparably. But, you know, it did kind of look like a lot of the time they'd just be going around in their costume and it's like, I'm going to be a hero, what are you going to do? I don't know, I guess I'll wear a domino mask. Same with the jacket I've worn for the last decade. But yeah, apparently it's an archery suit, so hey, I'm good, I'll cool with that, I'll take that. Sure, but it, you know, she is seemingly going to get a costume, as we get a tease later on. But she was obviously told last week by Clint to kind of get out of here. There's a Black Widow after me. This isn't serious now. You need to get out of here. So she's talking to Eleanor, her mother, and she says, like, look, I'm not a hero. Clint told me to go to keep me safe, yada, yada, yada. Just so you know, Jack is up to some shady business. We think he's involved with Sloan Limited. And they're like, and we're wondering, is the mother going to act on it? Or does the mother know already? Who knows? But we do find out later, as we come back, very briefly, we see that Jack is being arrested for his involvement with Sloan Limited, but denying all involvement. And the mother looks a little bit upset. Again, the big question is, are they both criminals here? Who's involved here? Is Jack innocent? Are they going to swap it around that way? Who knows? Although it did make me kind of go, actually, I don't remember. Did Kate go to the police station? I know in like the second episode they're like, we need to talk to you, Kate. I'm not sure that you ever show up there, but forget about it. Who cares? Other people that are making the rounds and visiting each other's houses. We have Kazi, who was talking to Echo, and he's like, hey, and this is, remember last week, Hawkeye kind of threatened Kazi. He was like, you need to tell her to stop going after Ronin, or else, she's going to end up dead or in danger. Very weak dude. Very weak way of living up to that promise. He basically just showed up and was like, hey, yeah, kill Ronin, but then we're done. So, like, okay, right, so just do what you were doing, in other words. That was really weak, you Kazi, god damn it. But also, another person making out call, Clint is calling to Grills, I think. Is it Grills or Grizz? I have Grizz down here, but I also wrote Grills later. I think it's Grills. But he was, of course, the LARPer and police officer that had Hawkeye's costume initially. But he's been looking after Pizza Dog, so good man. He's a good dude. And he's also given Clint a place to stay at the moment. Because Clint was going to go to a hotel, but he's like, no, you stay here, you can sleep on the couch or my bed. But Clint's like, I'll take the couch, thanks. Kind of weird. The other thing we should mention is the fact that he says, like, hey, I got your and Kate's costume, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll look at it later. So again, really does feel like it's going to that cliche that we get in the Marvel universe, that like the finale of the show, give them their costume now. Seems like it happens all the time. But anyway, that's where we leave Clint. But the most interesting house call in the episode is Yelena Belova, who has decided to call to Kate's apartment. Well, actually, to be fair, I don't know if she called into Kate's apartment. She broke in, and Kate called to her own apartment, and Yelena was already there, eating macaroni, of all things. So this was really fun. I really liked the dynamic between Yelena and Kate already. But they basically, obviously had their big fight on the rooftop, and Yelena is very friendly. She's like, I'll have some macaroni. Like, I'm not going to kill you. If I was going to kill you, I would have killed you as soon as you came in the door. And she's like, actually, that's probably true. I'll have some macaroni then. She also makes it very clear, like, eating after fight is important. You need energy. Blah. That's exactly what my father used to said. So we got a shout out to the Red Guardian, David Harbour. So that's kind of fun. And they basically just have a chat for a little bit. I don't think there's much majorly of substance to their chat, to be honest. Certainly nothing that's going to have long ramifications. But it is nice, because I did hint about it last week a bit, that we had that dynamic between the new Hawkeye and the new Black Widow, just like the old Hawkeye and the old Black Widow. It's... I can't believe I have to do this again. Play the George Lucas slip.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
The new Hawkeye meets the new Black Widow, and they're going to be besties maybe eventually. But I do really like their dynamic. They're eating macaroni. Apparently, Yelena, again, this is a character I can't help but love. She's just so much fun. And I like Kate Bishop as well, so I'm really glad that they're friendly and that they're going to have some relationship going forward. But Yelena's just happy to be in New York, because she's never been in New York, even though she's there for work. They make a few references here that were interesting. The first one is she wants to see the new and improved Statue of Liberty. I believe that we first saw this in, I think maybe it was a set photo for Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm not going to look because I don't want to spoil Spider-Man No Way Home for me. I'm not going to spoil it here either, and I haven't seen it either. So, but I believe Statue of Liberty in the MCU has been updated. So now the Statue of Liberty is holding a Captain America shield. And I assume we're going to see that in Spider-Man No Way Home. So it's convenient that they're kind of coming out around the same time. I think they also maybe changed the name of it to the Liberty Avenger, but I'm not entirely sure about that. She mentioned something about the Rockefeller Center. I don't remember what they changed to the Rockefeller Center. The Rockefeller Center has been in the show so far, so maybe it's just something minor, but either way. I would say go see it quick, because judging off some of the footage we've seen in the Spider-Man trailers, it might get destroyed pretty quickly, the Statue of Liberty. So, you know, we get a lot. So we're getting ties to the MCU. We're also getting Christmas connections, of course, because Yelena has eaten a reindeer. Oh man, fa la 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 la. So yeah, Yelena, as much as her and Kate are kind of, you know, have a kind of a truce almost, like somewhat of an understanding. She's like, makes it very clear, like, you know, I can kill you, Kate. You know, she's like saying like, I don't have a weapon, but you know, I could easily get one. My hands are weapons, you know. Kate is like, I could have killed you, and she's like, you couldn't have. And there's also the thing that she's like, I wasn't trying to kill you. I used a repel line or whatever, so you would be taken out of the battle. I put you on a wire so you wouldn't die, but just so you'd be out of the equation. And so there's kind of a fun little rivalry there between them. Then, I mean, she really makes it very clear, like, I know everything about you, Kate Bishop. She keeps calling her Kate Bishop. I know about you, Kate Bishop. I know about your family. I know where you live, Kate Bishop. That's my Russian accent or my Florence Pugh accent. You decide. Or both. But then really, I mean, Yelena really kind of brings a dampener on things. She's like, hey, I'm here to kill Clint, by the way. And she's like, what the hell, man? Maybe you're having a good time eating macaroni. So yeah, it kind of makes it very obvious. They have like a big debate then. This is like what I mean, like there wasn't necessarily a big revelation or something that's going to have impact. This is something I felt like it could have been an interesting theme and idea, but it never really went anywhere. Which is that Yelena is like, you know, you think he's a good guy, but he's not. And she's like, he's a hero, he's an Avenger. And she's like, yeah, what does that even mean? Like, which is, again, carrying on how she felt kind of in Black Widow. It's like being an Avenger is all glamour. You're not doing anything of substance. You're just an icon more than anything. And Kate looks like she has doubts, but it doesn't seem like it's going to factor in any way at all. So again, that's what I mean by I don't know if there's going to have any real ramifications going forward. But she does say very clearly, stay out of my way, Kate. I'm going to kill Clint. So that's where we leave our girls, our new Black Widow, our new Hawkeye. Very, very interesting. As I mentioned, by now Jack has been arrested. That's where we left off. And he's saying he's been framed. So again, we have to kind of figure out where that's going to go. But meanwhile, we're now picking up with Clint, who's doing a few touristy things, like visiting the memorial for the Battle of New York, where there's a plaque that marks the first time the Avengers assembled, which is cool. While there, he's kind of talking to Natasha, almost kind of praying. He says basically like, you know, I keep looking back at the day you sacrificed yourself, which, you know, was on Vormir, of course, for the Soul Stone. And he's like, I try every day to earn the life that you gave me. And he says that he misses her and he's sorry for what he's going to do. And then he puts up his hood and runs away. Dun, dun, dun. Again, it was very obvious he's going to become Ronin again, which is fun. Well, not fun, but, you know, it's cool, I guess. What I really loved in this scene was they brought in the score from the scene where she sacrificed herself. It was really powerful. I really liked that. It was just a nice scene. Kate is having no trouble getting onto Clint, though. She's tried ringing him multiple times and is getting nowhere. And then we have a really fun part. And again, this is the thing I think I like Tracksuit Mafia, why they're fun. They're talking about tracksuit, bro. Hence why I'm wearing a tracksuit if you're watching the video version. They're listening to Christmas Time in Hollis, Queens, just like Die Hard. Which, hey man, this is Christmas music if you listen to Argyle. They're talking about some classic tracksuits, bro. Run DMC, of course, who did Christmas in Hollis, Queens. Royal Tenenbaums, Uzi, Ben Stiller's character, or is Uzi his son, maybe. But yeah, they wear tracksuits. Tony Soprano, which I'm like, I don't know, Tony Soprano definitely did wear tracksuits, but it's not like the iconic one for him is just, I don't know, a dressing gown and a vest. So it'd be much less intimidating if they're called the Dressing Gown Mafia. But there you go. And as they're doing that, an arrow is shot through the window and a message comes out of it. And the message basically says, tell Maya to meet Ronin alone, where she saw him the first time. Meanwhile, Clint has called his wife Laura, Linda Cardellini, back again. I mean, most of her, she probably filmed for like a day just answering the phone, if we're honest. But he's like saying like everything, here's everything that's happening, and that if this gets worse, if we don't solve it tonight, it's only a matter of time before the big guy gets involved. That's right, God himself is going to come down. I don't know, is there a God in the Marvel Universe? Probably not, I guess. Laura tells him, do what you have to. Speaking of the big guy, then we find that they are meeting at what we saw in the second episode, I believe it was, which was Fat Man Used Cars. Which, you know, man, whoever owns those places has a really low opinion of themselves, have very low self-esteem. But that is where Echo is, because of course we saw in the flashback, this is where her father was killed by the Ronin. But she has not come alone. We see people on the ground with machine guns in Tracksuit Mafia. We see Kazi with a sniper rifle. Didn't last very long though, because he's very quickly taken out. We see the sword of the Ronin, and he kind of takes him out. Takes out all the bad guys on the floor. And as you know, it's very it was very Batman Begins, very Daredevil-esque. Again, Hawkeye is a street level hero. It's something you'd almost forget given his role in the MCU up till now. So it's cool to see this other side of him, and it certainly suits the Ronin character they built up in the MCU. And of course, it is the Ronin. They finally reveal that as he comes out of the shadows and into the light. It's the Ronin. Clint and Maya have a big fight. It was a really, really intense fight scene. I really liked it. It was fun. Again, a lot of people criticize the fight sequences in the MCU. I thought this was a particularly strong one. At this moment, he looks like he has her dead to rights. She's on the ground. He has a sword to her. And at that moment, he takes his mask off and tells her, basically, I want you to see my face. And of course, we're all thinking, oh, this is what he's been hinting at. He's going to kill her. But of course, you know, if Hawkeye beheaded a woman in the MCU, it's probably going to be hard to sell Avengers toys to kids, isn't it? So he just says, like, I want you to know, I want you to see my face, and that I could have killed you because, you know this. It's a very long-winded thing. He could have just been like, I'm not going to kill you. But he says, like, if you ever come after my family or me, I will kill you. And again, it seems like that could be, like, oh, well, that's the end of that, but not really, because he then says to her, you need to know that the night I killed your father, I was told about where he was going to be by an informant who was working for your boss. Maya is angered by this. They have a bit of a fight, and again, Clint loses the fight then to her. He's about to he manages, or she manages to get his sword and is about to strike him with the sword, and then an arrow comes out of nowhere, and that's it. She's disarmed, and Clint is saved and runs off with Kate Bishop, which, by the way, Kate tracked him down using his phone again for the second time. I mean, you're an Avenger, dude. There's no doubt a lot of people don't want to kill you just to make a name for themselves. It shouldn't be that easy, like, could they do that with other Avengers? I mean, come on, man. It's just a little bit too easy. And I know you need the phone number, but it just seems a little bit too convenient. But either way, they hop into an Uber. Yeah, no, literally, they hop into an Uber and get out of there. After that, Kazi meets with Maya, and this was interesting because we've all been expecting the reveal of the Kingpin. The way this was shot reminded me of Kingpin's introduction in Daredevil, where he kind of comes out of a car, and I was like, oh, this is not going to be good for Kazi. I don't know if it was just, me just seeing things like that aren't there, but it kind of reminded me of that. So I was wondering if we were going to see Kingpin introduced here and that he could kill off Kazi. I mean, I still think he could kill off Kazi. I think that's something I think something needs to happen to turn Echo finally against him. That might happen in the finale. But basically, Kazi is like, oh man, he got away, for God's sake. Again, Kazi, you should be convincing her to end it here, but maybe not. But Maya then says to him, like, the night my father died, you weren't there. Where were you? Because again, it was like, was he the informant to Ronin? So he says, like, whatever. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. Blah blah blah. Can we trust Kazi? Dun, dun, dun. So I guess we have another question now going into the finale. On the way back, Kate tells Clint that the woman, Yelena, is Natasha's sister, and of course, Clint says, oh, before he even gets the name, he was like, it's Yelena, because he obviously has been speaking to Black Widow. Again, it was nice, that a little touch that he didn't know who she was, just clearly because it means Natasha loves her sister and has spoken to it about Clint, and again, puts in mind how close they actually were, which makes the whole thing a bit of a tragic twist that now her sister is trying to kill Hawkeye for something he basically didn't do. And we kind of eventually we get to find out who is turning them against each other. Of course, we saw I got this name wrong last week. Valentina Allegra Fontaine. I think that Julie Louis-Dreyfus. So we find out that basically, we see, I guess, Yelena tailing Eleanor. We're like, why is she tailing her? And follows her to her work. And then, meanwhile, Kate Clint and Grills and the pizza dog are having breakfast. And Kate gets a text from Yelena. And in the text, she's like, I found out who hired me. Eleanor, your mother hired me. So maybe Valentina is kind of a middlewoman for contracts like this. But less interesting more interesting is who Eleanor is working with. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we get a little bit of a video clip. We don't actually see the clip being played, but it shows Eleanor right next to Kingpin. Upon Clint seeing it, he says, this is the guy I've been worried about the whole time. The Kingpin. And that's the end of the episode. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Okay, let me get this out of the way. Number one, really glad that the Kingpin is in the MCU. Really glad that it's Vincent D'Onofrio and the Netflix shows are canon. Hopefully this opens the floodgates. Of course, we all think we might be getting Matt Murdock in Spider-Man. Some people probably know whether or not we are by now. But talk about an underwhelming reveal. Like, your introduction of the Kingpin is a grainy still image on a phone. Come on, man. You should have. Do you know what? Here's what you should have done. Show Kate showing Clint the phone. Cut then to Kingpin being pissed off at Cassie and beating the shit out of him. If you didn't watch Daredevil, if you didn't know much about the Kingpin or care about Kingpin, this meant nothing to you. And remember, as much as a lot of us are clamoring for Kingpin and Daredevil to be canon, there's a lot of kids that watch the MCU that have never watched Daredevil or any of the Netflix shows. So it was, for me, a bit of a letdown, especially when you've been teasing it for so many weeks. We didn't get an idea of the scale of the Kingpin or why we should be afraid of him, aside from the fact that Clint is scared of him. So it was a bit of an underwhelming reveal. As much as I'm glad it was finally revealed, I just think it could have been done better. But yeah, it was an interesting episode. I also want to say, the music was great in this episode. We had, of course, Christmas Time in Hollis Queens. We had Charlie Brown's Christmas Time is Here. And to end it, just to be like, that's the guy I'm afraid of, the Kingpin. And then it was, you're a mean one. It was amazing. I love the music in this show, I have to say. And the other thing that I thought was cool is over the credits, we kind of get the outline of Kingpin on one of the title cards. So again, nice big presence. And I think it's one thing that is cool. It's nice to think that, this whole time in the MCU, Hawkeye has sort of been battling someone like Kingpin in the background and we were just not aware of it. I think that's a cool touch. But again, maybe a bit of an underwhelming reveal. For an episode that I thought was good, but not great. I think I probably put it on the same level as last week, although I enjoyed last week more, I think, initially. But maybe for me, it was just the underwhelming reveal. I think that the episode would have been very different had it been done differently. Because I think a lot of people, when it comes to shows, especially with the Marvel shows and this show in general, I think it seems like there's more emphasis put on what's being revealed as opposed to the show and the plot itself, which isn't a healthy way to consume culture, but either way, it is what it is. Brings us to the finale, which is of course next week, which of course I'm going to be breaking down. So I guess, the things that we have up in the air right now, is Hawkeye going to get a costume? Are we going to get Kingpin in the MCU proper? We have to figure out who killed Armand III. What is Eleanor's involvement in this? Is Jack actually innocent, or is he going to be revealed to be the swordsman? Where does Yelena Belova sit into this? Is she, realizing that she's been kind of set up, or is she going to have a fight? or confrontation with Clint. So again, I said it last week, I was like, 2 episodes doesn't seem like enough. Now 1 episode doesn't seem like enough because this episode didn't seem like everything I wanted it to be. But we'll have to see. I'm excited for the finale. I really enjoyed this show so far. But what did you think of this episode? Was this episode a bit of a letdown overall? Did you like the reveal of the Kingpin? And what do you think this means for the MCU as a whole? I mean, of course, we all thought that Echo show was going to be like, you know, kind of Daredevil season 4-esque. So I guess we have to get that into the way as well. We have to set up Echo for her own show but next week. So there's a lot to fit into this next episode. So hopefully it pays off. But of course, I'm going to be here breaking it down, COVID or not. Yeah, that's right. Take that. So that's what we're doing. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like. Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. And if you do not want to miss our discussion on the finale next week, be sure to press that subscribe button. Until then, I've been your cult leader, Tom Pot. Please come back next week, because remember, I'll be watching. Take care.